What's going on, everybody? We're back. Episode number 189 of the Club and Sub podcast. Tonight we're talking UFC 305. Before I get started, drop a like, subscribe. It'll help the channel out, help us grow a bit. And like I say every week, if you want to get hooked up with a 30% off your first month subscription to fightnumbers.com, use the promo code CLUB. Fight Numbers, they got John Kelly's DFS projections, some of the best in the business. They got the live odds screen giving you in real-time odds on foreign and domestic books. And perhaps best, they have picks from Ozzy, Evan, and my boy joining me tonight at Pepe Siliva. Pepe, how you doing, brother?
What up, G? Yeah, fucking ready for this card. I've been dialed in, feeling good, ready to finish the year strong.
Yeah, agreed. Would like to close the last 4 months on a high note. Last week, not that great. Do you have a lot of action on this slate?
On this week's slate or last week?
This week's.
No, but I don't know. I'm still like all the props haven't been released yet, so I haven't finished my slate yet. The longer I do this, like, okay, so there's certain times where I want to get in early, but I'm really trying to wait until later to put bets in, like maybe day of or day before, and unless I think a line is like way off, like Rosa and Santos last week, then I'll get in early. But I feel like I don't like adding midweek. I like either getting really early or waiting until the end of the week, because then I have all the information. I can marinate on everything.
Yeah.
And I can wait till weigh-ins, because that seems to be a fucking huge issue this year.
Dude, it's been a shit show. Like, I bet Damon Jackson last week, and I wanted to cash out of my bet, but I didn't have access to any of my apps, and I was at a wedding, and it's like 5 pound miss is just absolutely brutal in what's going to be a grappling heavy fight. But yeah, let's get into it.
Like Clint said, like that would be that I could do that if I was only betting, but some people tail my bet, so it's like a disaster when you do that.
Yeah, let's jump into it though. UFC 305 coming to you from Perth, Australia. Pretty good slate. I have some action. A lot of strong opinions. But first fight of the night, Pepe, I'll throw it to you. We got Stuart Nickel. He's minus 230. He's fighting Jesus Aguilar, who's plus 195. What are your thoughts here?
Is Jesus Aguilar a Gilly merchant? Like, that's my initial thought. Like, is he just a Gilly merchant?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, have we really seen him like show any kind of effective offense really in the UFC?
His striking so sloppy. It's just like crazy overhands. His feet aren't really set. And my biggest issue with Aguilar is his defensive grappling, like how easy it is to take him down. His wrestling's not great either. His control's not great. So he can get people down, but he usually doesn't hold them down. He gets reversed all the time. But the thing is, this guy he's fighting, Nickel, I'm not sold on him either, to be honest. Like, he's fighting fucking bums, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's not even in the main promotion in Australia. He looks weak as shit. He looks so skinny. Like, I think Aguilar is going to be more physical. My only issue is, like, fucking Aguilar will pull guard and shit. So it's like things that you really don't want to see. Like, Aguilar will just settle into bottom. Stuart Nickel seems to be pretty aggressive, but he hasn't been extended much. His competition is bad. In the fight that he did get extended, and he ended up on his back for a while. So it's definitely like what I'm thinking is GTD is probably solid.
Yeah.
I will probably end up on that. I don't want the line to get wider, so I'm hoping it stays at what it is.
Yeah, I was looking it over too. Honestly, I was like thinking of betting Aguilar just because, I mean, this kind of spot checks some boxes, right? It's like Stuart Nickel making his debut. He's only got 8 fights, to your point. Most are all against very, very low level competition. And Aguilar is like 2-1 in the UFC. He's fought pretty good level, or I mean, compared to Stuart Nickel, a fairly high level of competition. But like to your point, it's like, I don't know, man. Like even this guy's wins, Jesus Aguilar's wins, he's not really, blowing me away. I guess, I mean, the 2 wins in the UFC was a 1-punch KO of Shannon Ross and the Mateus Mendonca fight, where he probably didn't deserve to win that fight, if we're being honest. But I look at this, and on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. Aguilar is not, for a guy with a wrestling base, he's a pretty poor defensive wrestler, and he seems to give up position fairly easily. On the other hand, I'm like, man, like Mateus Mendonca, I feel like I'd make like minus 250 against Stuart Nickel. I just, he's got his issues, but he's an explosive guy who's a big guy for the division, and he's an athlete. Whereas Nickel, to me, strikes me as really more just a process grappler than any kind of real athlete. Like, I don't think he's got much pop in his shots. I don't think he's a particularly technical striker. He's just kind of a jiu-jitsu guy. But with that said, my concern is, like, I think Nickel's going to have success early in this fight. I think he's going to get takedowns. I think he's probably going to get some control. So it's like what I'd almost rather just bet live and see whether or not Aguilar is just totally overwhelmed and or what, the gas tank looks like on the Nickel side. I'm kind of with you on the over, though, just because Aguilar could guillotine him, I think, but I don't really think Nickel is very likely to sub Aguilar personally.
His black belt would have to be revoked, but then again, you always have to consider, like,
it's fake.
Yeah, like what kind of black belt he has. But I will say this, Stuart Nickel looks like he has like a much better process than Jesus. A lot of Jesus's wins are him losing until he gets a Hail Mary guillotine. Like, it's kind of crazy, dude. Like Mendonca probably should have got that last win too. Aguilar is pretty ass. But we don't know how Stewart's going to look with a slight step up in competition. So
I don't want to say this for a fact. I don't know if you checked out Stewart's Instagram, but he posted something a while back before this got booked. It was like an entry into a contest for like the UFC trying to find like a local fighter to fight on the Perth card. So I didn't look too deep into it. Or I couldn't find much info on it, but I'm like, did this guy literally just get a call because the UFC just wanted to put like a local Perth guy on the card? I don't know. It is. I agree with you that he's ass. Like, my concern on the Nickel side, it's just like, how does this guy deserve to be in the UFC? I mean, you watched the same fights I did. Like, it's not like he did anything. I would rate just about every U.S. promotion better than the one he was fighting on.
The barrier of entry into the UFC isn't much, so I don't really know.
That's true. That is true. That's a fair point. Anyway, we spent too long on this fight. Moving on. We got Kenan Song. He's taking on Ricky Glenn. Current price on Song, minus 172. Comeback on Glenn, plus 147. Like 5 years ago, or 3 years ago even, I might have bet Ricky Glenn here. But honestly, if the line came into like the minus 150 range, I'd consider betting Song. Like, Glenn's probably a better fighter, higher work rate, decent kicker. But first of all, Glenn's like a career 145er who's now going up to 170 after 2 straight KOs at 155. He's 35 years old. He pretty clearly has lost his durability. He did an interview this week basically saying if he wins, he wins. If he loses, he loses. He's got arthritis, and it's really hard for him to get to the cage, which I thought was really weird for him to be talking about that. And so, like, I'm looking at it, it's like, yeah, Song sucks, but, like, man, I bet Song for a decent amount against Kevin Gisette last fight. I feel like unless he just lets Glenn do whatever he wants and, just get off strikes on him, he should be landing the more impactful shots. I think he should be able to take shots way, way, way better than Glenn. I don't really see any Glenn grappling upside. I don't really see a lot of Glenn upside other than, Song just decided to do nothing and maybe let him get off, and maybe Glenn's chin holds up a bit more at 170. But a guy who's probably in his retirement fight, who is pretty much said he's done and who's opening his own gym on September 2nd, it kind of, I don't know. I feel like this is it. This is a pink slip fight here. I kind of lean the Song side. Plus, it's on his side of the world. Glenn's coming across the world here What do you think, Pepe?
I haven't taped this one yet, honestly, but I was kind of curious, like, who the fuck was betting Ricky Glenn, honestly, because it seemed like a lot of people that I talked to were on the Kanan side, but the line just kept coming in. So I don't know where this Ricky Glenn. Who the fuck is betting Ricky Glenn in 2024?
You know what's funny? I initially thought I had heard this is at 155, and I was like, Glenn would be kind of interesting if Song's coming down from 170, but like it's the exact opposite. Which I mean, when was the last time this has really worked out for one of these old guys who's been knocked out a few times, moving up in weight? It just doesn't seem like it.
How many times has Song been knocked out?
Oh,
Ian
good question.
Gary, that was like
4.
Okay, yeah. I know. My buddy MMA Giga Chad has $31,000 on Kanan Song at -155. He legit sent me the screenshot. So
did he?
I'm not as confident as him. But to be fair, okay, this is one I'm gonna wait till the weigh-ins anyways, because it's not a fight I really want action on, to be honest. But I'm definitely waiting till the weigh-ins before I even tape this fight.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on, Pepe, I'll let you serenade us with your thoughts for this one. We got Tom Nolan taking on Alex Reyes. Current price, Tom Nolan -1150. The comeback on Alex Reyes +750. What do you think here?
Yo, I'm in me and Evan are in a group chat or whatever, and he likes over 1.5 in GTD, and like him and I have been bickering ever since he put the bet in about this. I'm like, why the fuck are you betting over in this fight? Like this is like a fucking funeral for Alex Reyes. And like I made this post on Twitter about how the UFC was predatory in their matchmaking with putting Alex Reyes versus Tom Nolan, and all these fucking bootlickers are up my ass fucking saying how, oh, he shouldn't be in the UFC if he can't fight Tom Nolan, and Tom Nolan's not even UFC caliber, and all this bullshit. And my whole point was, like, why can't they just book competitive fights? Like, there's no reason there should be a -1,500 on the prelims. Like, it's pay-per-view. It's not even like I could understand a -1,500 on if it was like a title fight and there's like an amazing, champion who like really can't be beat. But we're talking about the fucking prelims, and Reyes hasn't won since 2017. No one he's even beat has won since 2018. Like he beat some shitty regional guys, had a fucking terrible medical condition, didn't think he would even make it back to the UFC, and they're giving him a 24-year-old who throws a shit ton of volume and has a ton of power. It's just fucking stupid, man. Like Nolan, everyone wants to give him shit because he got dropped by Victor Martinez, and now they're like protecting him ultra. Like, why don't they just give him someone who's decent, who just doesn't have a ton of power? Like, there's no reason for them to give him Reyes. Reyes should be fighting someone with less power too, just to protect his health. So it's a stupid fight. That said, I might convince myself into Nolan sub 2, but I can't really see him getting any grappling going. It would have to be club and sub, no pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And honestly, though, like you mentioned it, like I don't think Alex Reyes should be in the UFC if for no other reason than he's 37 years old, had a major medical condition, almost died, and like didn't walk for a couple years, if I'm not mistaken. Like the guy, I said it before the trial. I legitimately considered laying -500 on Charlie Campbell in his last fight because like this is just.
I did.
Did you? Yeah. Unless he cracks him in the first 2 minutes, like how does he win this fight? And I guess I feel that way here. I mean, this is ridiculous. There's no need for this to happen. Sean just mentioned it in the chat, but it's like they keep signing these dudes with no experience, and these guys are just like Tom Nolan's not prepared to fight a top 40 guy, like not nowhere close.
Well, they have more fighters than just top 40 guys, though.
Yeah, like Gennaro Valdez's of the world, not Tom Levy's,
right. Yeah, even Evan Elder.
Yeah, Mike Breeden.
Yeah,
That's
fucking,
way more interesting than this.
if they fucking lose the fight, big deal. Like keep them, like they can lose a fight and still develop their skills, and like people are still gonna be interested in them and they book another fight. It's just see, I think that's another reason why the UFC like so much juice has been winning lately because UFC has been even more intentional with their matchmaking,
Yeah.
and it's just annoying.
It does seem that way, and I agree. I have no interest in betting anything here. Sub would be the way to go, I guess. I mean, what's Nolan KO like minus 400? Like you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, can't be involved in that. But fuck that. Moving on. I have a pretty. I don't want to say hot take, but somewhat spicy take here. We got Jack Jenkins taking on Herbert Burns. Current price is Jenkins minus 800. The comeback on Burns plus 550. I mean, I'm going to very likely bet Burns sub 1. Like I see plus 1,500 on Bet Online. I'm hoping the domestics open it a bit wider. I might even sprinkle the money line a little bit. I mean, Jenkins should win, right? I mean, he's minus 800. Obviously, he should win this fight at a very, very high clip. But I do think, Jack Jenkins is almost like uniquely suited to be the kind of guy that Herbert Burns subs. Like you look at like Herbert Burns' last 3 fights, man, the UFC has done him very little favors. Last fight, obviously Julio Arce, Tiger Schulman guy, great takedown defense, black belt, very unlikely to get caught in something stupid. Fight before that, Bill Algeo, not a great wrestler, but a black belt who's very unlikely to get caught in something stupid. And I mean, the fight before that, Daniel Pineda, very good grappler who has a better gas tank and is more physical. He's basically fought I don't want to call it a murderer's row, but a bunch of guys who are really just kind of awful for a guy like him who's very reliant on an early finish for him to fight because most of those guys are not getting finished early. And now he's fighting a guy in Jenkins that while I think Jenkins is a lot better than Herbert Burns. I think if this fight exits the first 5 minutes, he's very likely going to finish Herbert Burns in this fight. I really think Jenkins is pretty suspect when he gets grounded. Now, whether or not Burns can get him down, I'm not 100% sure. But, I mean, the couple times I've seen him on bottom, he gives up passes pretty easily. And I actually think Burns' physicality is semi-underrated early in fights. So, yeah. I think, look, Burns was a much closer line with Julio Arce in his last fight, who I think is better than Jack Jenkins, or at least more suited at any rate to this kind of fight.
Arce was coming off an injury that people were talking about.
That's fair. But yeah, I just feel like Jack Jenkins is very, very, I don't want to say like super live to get finished early. Like I think Jenkins minus 400 or so is fair. But I think if Burns gets him down in the first round, I think it's going to be Sweat City, to be honest. So I'm going to I will sprinkle the Burns sub 1. I might take a small poke at the money line. I haven't decided on that yet. What do you think?
I was just going to take a look at Unibet to see what a certain line is. I have to do a little more tape on this, to be honest. Okay, so Unibet, Bet Rivers, they have sub 1 1,900 and then sub 2 30 to 1. I don't know if I would want to get exactly just tied to sub 1. If I was thinking that was live, I would also put a little bit on sub 2 because I forgot which fight I was watching, but Burns did get a takedown in round 2.
He got Bills back in round 2.
Yeah, but it's like I think he probably will if he doesn't get a submission within the first half of round 2, though. Like he falls off a cliff pretty quick. Although when I was watching the Pineda fight, and this was a while ago, and Burns hasn't really evolved his game whatsoever. If anything, it's getting worse. So I think he was a better fighter in the Pineda fight than he is now. Like the Arce quit was really
horrible.
Yeah, he fell off a cliff. And this is on short notice, and it's, in Australia, makes it even more difficult. But Jenkins was a little more mid than I remembered. For some reason, I thought Jenkins was a little bit better. And it's not like
because he robbed us last year.
Oh, yeah, that was bad. I was big on Emmers in that one. But, yeah, it's not like he's 26 or 27 or anything. He's like, I'm pretty sure he's 31. But, yeah, his striking isn't that good. Like, he has good leg kicks, but I think Burns could be prepared for those. I don't think he's just gonna stand there and eat leg kicks. I think he's gonna. I think he should. I think he's gonna be able to get a takedown, man. And I think the grappling disparity could show. I don't know if he's gonna be able to submit him, but I think he'll have opportunities to get his game going. And yeah, I wouldn't be. I was originally thinking that I was going to play the under 1.5, but after looking into it more, I'm not going to. I might do Burns sub 1, sub 2, and then Jenkins KO 2, and maybe a tiny KO 3, and then just leave it at that. But those are all going to be small bets. I don't want to get overly invested, but it is a somewhat predictable outcome here, right?
Yeah, and I mean honestly, even with Jenkins KO2 and KO3 being like as having as large a hold on them as they have, it's like one of those things where it's so live that it almost is like if Burns doesn't finish him inside 7 minutes, Jenkins 2-3 probably turns into like a minus situation, you know, like legitimately.
Yeah,
So,
Glenbot said Jack decision, but Burns just doesn't really have the cardio to go 15 minutes, man.
it's not even just the cardio either. Like rewatching the Erceg fight, it's kind of funny because we were at that card and I literally walked in right as I lost I over that I bet there. But like rewatching it, I was rewatching it this afternoon and I'm like, how did this miss? Because like a minute and a half into round 2, there's like nothing happening really. And I'm like, this looked like it was like a perfect bet. And then he just like, as soon as he faced any adversity, was just like, okay, I've had it, like throwing in the towel here. Like he's just like once he folds the tent, it's over, and that's kind of the problem with him.
My question is, who wins in a bar fight, Herbert Burns or Lou Betya?
Oh, I would like to. I'll put up some money for that, Pepe. You probably would too. We'll go down to Philly, hang out with Evan.
Made it happen back in Atlantic City, but Lou bitched out.
Yeah, Lou did not show up. That would have been a great way to celebrate post fight there.
Yeah,
or celebrate. I shouldn't say celebrate. I think we got killed on that card, but anyway, moving on. We got Casey O'Neill taking on Luana Santos. Current price: Luana Santos is a favorite here. She's minus 142. Comeback on Casey plus 122. What do you think here, Pepe?
I think Casey O'Neill is the side in this fight, and the reason why I think so, there's a lot of things working in Casey's favor. I think in this fight, we're getting her at her low point, market low point. You know, she's coming off from being favorited against Jennifer Maia and Ariane Lipski. I think she was like minus 170 in both of those fights against 2 ranked women. And the only other time that she's been an underdog, she cashed against Lara Procopio. And now we're going to her home city against Luana Santos, who's taking this fight on short notice. Didn't get a full camp in for this fight after the Agapova fight. And people saw her finish Agapova in like 2 minutes. And now they think she's like this great prospect, which, you know, we don't know like what her full potential is or how good she's going to be. She definitely has the upside to potentially continue to develop. But as I see it now, I don't think her striking is good at all. And, you know, we're 1 fight removed from her like barely edging a decision over Stephanie Egger, who I don't rate whatsoever. I think Casey O'Neill has the better striking. She's more busy on the feet. She has terrible head movement. I get that. But the thing is, and what I was really focusing in on why I think Casey has a good shot to win is that Luana Santos doesn't have the speed or footwork that Lipski or Jennifer Maia have that is going to give Casey as many issues. And then you add on top of it that Casey's from Perth. Casey has the better cardio. She throws a shit ton of volume. She's got good pace. She's got good pressure. I capped this fight 50-50. On top of that, her dad owns Eternal MMA, which is the biggest promotion in Australia. So she's very well known in the area. If there's any kind of judge's rub, I'm sure the commission is very familiar with her father and the family. I think she's a super game opponent. I think she's going to put on a much better performance. She's further removed from the ACL surgery. She did her fight camp at Fight Ready. Santino's going to be in her corner. I didn't really like Extreme Couture for her. She wasn't getting individual coaching there. And I think the fighter development at Extreme Couture is pretty shitty. It's decent for fighters who are already developed, like Strickland, Curtis, Nagano, shit like that. But they don't have many good coaches outside of Eric, and Eric's not giving a ton of attention to. There's too many fighters there, you know what I mean? So I'm liking the move for Casey. The bear case for this bet is that Santos is able to get her grappling going and is able to outposition her. I know that's definitely a possibility. Casey doesn't have the greatest defensive wrestling. She doesn't have the greatest intuition for the right grappling moves to make, which I think Luana is pretty good with. So I do think it's a volatile fight. I do think it's going to be close, but I like O'Neal at dog odds for sure. How about you?
Yeah, I think she's the best spot on the card, to be honest. I could see Pick'em. I make her a slight favorite. You mentioned a bit earlier about the UFC when we're talking about the Nolan fight, how deliberate the UFC has been with their matchmaking. This feels pretty deliberate to me. Like Casey was originally booked to fight Teresa Bleda, who is also a grappler with no striking, who has horrendous cardio, and now they've turned around and booked Luana Santos, who is also a grappler with very poor striking and pretty poor cardio. And I could forgive Santos's cardio for the Egger fight because she was clearly just out of shape if we hadn't seen it happen, a couple times earlier in her career. But it did, and now, like to your point, Pepe, she has no camp. They're flying her across the world basically to fight Casey O'Neal in her hometown. Stylistically, yeah, I'm with you. I think Santos potentially could have grappling success early, but something I was thinking about with the fight that I hadn't initially thought of was like, I think Laura Procopio is probably better than Luana Santos. At least, more diversity to her wrestling, definitely a better striker than Santos is. And she had a pretty hard time holding Casey down. Casey she's pretty urgent to work up. And Casey, if you clinch her up the way Santos does, she throws some pretty vicious knees in the clinch, which, I think are going to be not great for Santos's cardio over the long run here. I think, yeah. Look, Luana's, to your point, like she's a decent talent, I guess. But I look at the Agapova fight and I'm like, would the fight go much different if she was fighting Casey O'Neal? Like, I really don't think so if Casey brought the right game plan. I look at the Egger fight and that was just an absolutely, horrendous fight. She was lucky to win that fight, if we're being honest. I feel she deserved the win, but it was very, very close.
Egger sucks too.
Yeah, she can't strike at all, and she was kind of touching her up at the end of the fight.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Juliana Miller fight, and even that fight, it's like she knocked Miller out, but prior to hurting her, Miller landed everything she threw at her,
Yeah, Bishop was touching her up on the feet too.
Yeah, so and the Bishop fight was a couple years ago. Like that's kind of my point. It doesn't seem like Santos has made like many improvements over the last couple years. Given what we saw in the fight with Egger, it seems like it's very possible Luana is not taking MMA particularly seriously. And then I just think about, just a pure work rate type stuff, right? Like Casey O'Neal's thrown over 400 or 350 strikes in a fight before. I think Luana Santos, if she had to fight at that work rate, would just suffer cardiac arrest on the spot, to be completely honest with you. Maybe Santos could physical her or out-grapple her, but I don't know, man. I look at how Casey approached the Maia fight, and I think if she does that here, she's going to win. I don't want to say comfortably, but I think she's a favorite if she approaches it like that, where she just comes out with a ton of volume,
Yeah, I think the Maia performance was one of her best performances, honestly.
Yeah, Maia was just a top 5 fighter. It's just like way too
it's
much.
So funny because people are like, "Oh, the UFC released Maia, so she sucks." It's like, dude, it's way more than that. Like, it's not just like how good someone is, whether the UFC is going to keep them.
Yeah, Maia went to split with Vivi in her last fight. So it's
Yeah,
not
and
like
people, and then people will be like, she lost her next fight to Arujo. It's like, okay, like she's been a staple of the rankings for forever. Who the fuck is Luana Santos? She's got no footwork. She's plotty. She doesn't have any speed on her punches. Like comparing Luana Santos's her hand speed to Maya or Lipsky is just like a joke.
or just like precision, like you look at
Yeah.
like Jennifer Maya outboxed Marina Moroz,
Maya and Lipsky are two of the more like accurate strikers of the division too. So
yeah,
I thought she was going to be able to get Lipsky down, but her wrestling obviously fucking sucks. That's her big. If she could learn how to wrestle and cage wrestle, I mean, she could be a problem. But yeah, she's got a lot of things going for her, but she needs to improve in a ton of areas. Like she needs like 4 more years to develop her skills, but I could see her eventually like getting into the top 7.
Yeah, I agree with that. Moving on, we got Joshua Kulabau taking on Ricardo Ramos. Current price, Kulabau minus 140. Comeback on Ramos plus 120. I'll throw it to you, Pepe. What do you think here?
Sorry, I was reading Sean's comment about Casey getting judo tossed. Yeah, she could, dude, for sure.
Yeah.
I think takedowns are going to be more difficult to come as the fight wears on, though. And okay, so for Kulabau and Ramos, I like Kulabau. I haven't bet anything on it, but I think Ramos is just too flaky for me, and I think we see this kind of dynamic a lot where maybe Ramos has more skills, but the hardware is just so different between these two. Like Kulabau he's kind of a dog. Like he will fight for your money, and Ramos is the exact opposite. Let me just pull up their record. Who has Ramos beat in like the past? So he had that spinning elbow on Chavez. Like, who gives a shit? Like, yeah, maybe he can land a spinning elbow. Is that like 2 of his last 3 wins? Like,
no, he's spinning elbowed
Chavez and Zahabi, but I know the Zahabi one.
And he was losing the Zahabi fight.
Yeah, Zahabi.
And he arguably robbed Kongo Kang.
Yeah. So my thing is, I was like, okay, let me watch the LGO fight because I feel like that fight probably has the most correlation with how Kulabau matches up with him. And my memory of the fight was way different. I thought that Ramos like dog walked him a bit, like just one super clear dominated him, but that wasn't the case at all. Algio, Kulabau has bad takedown defense and he gives his back up sometimes, but he fights through it pretty well. And the thing I noticed about Ramos is I don't think his cardio is good at all. Like he was starting to slow down quite a bit in round 2. He doesn't like getting hit whatsoever. He quits anytime the fight gets like, he's kind of like Burns, but not as bad, where he's got poor cardio and he looks for a way out. So I like Kulabau in this matchup. I think he's going to finish him in round 2 or 3 KO.
Yeah, I don't have a strong lean, but I texted you earlier in the week. My initial read before I looked at it was like, I'm probably going to bet Ramos pretty big here. Because my priors were basically, I don't think Kulabau is a great grappler and Ramos is a super dangerous grappler. But honestly, after looking at it, first of all, I think Kulabau's defensive wrestling is getting a bit underrated. Shea Lin went 2 for 14 on takedowns. He got taken down 4 times by Danny Silva last fight. But if you look at those takedowns, Silva was kind of shucking him to the back and just kind of just mat returning him. It's not like he was just flattening him out, flat on the ground in any of those sequences. The Murphy fight was something that had bothered me from memory, but like when you see the way Murphy just kind of physically abused Edson Barboza, who historically has great takedown defense, and took him down pretty easily a few times, I just feel like a lot of that's aged well for Kulabau. Like, yes, I do think Ramos can take him down and potentially get a back take and potentially rear naked choke him. But I think Ramos's takedowns I don't really like. Like if you watch the Algio fight, actually just about every takedown it's on his first entry. Like he's not going for a double and switching off to a single. He's just trying to time a perfect takedown. And if he doesn't get those, he just generally doesn't get takedowns. A lot of it's from the upper body. I'm not sold, one, that takedowns will be easy. I'm not sold, two, that he has the gas to wrestle for 15 minutes if he doesn't get a quick submission. The third thing to your point, and we kind of briefly talked about it, but like Ramos' wins in the UFC, man, like Amin Zahabi, a fight he was losing, landed a spinning elbow. Kung Ho Kang robbed him. Like, that was a terrible decision. Journey Newson, not super close, but reasonably competitive decision. Eduardo Garagori, the Algeo fight, which you honestly could have scored for Algeo in that fight, and the Chavez fight. The guy is not like beating good fighters ever. And I mean, I think Kolab is a tough bastard. He's very, very fast. To your point, the hardware gap is just different. Like, Kolab is more durable. He hits harder, in my opinion. I think he covers distance a lot quicker than Ramos does. I'm not betting him because I do think, you have to give some credence to Ramos' jiu-jitsu ability and kind of just raw physical attributes. Like, I don't think Ramos is I think he's a pretty good athlete. I just kind of feel like Ramos is one of these guys that when things stop going his way, he kind of just gives up. Like, dude, the guy lost the decision to Zubaira Tukhugov on volume. Like, who else in the UFC has ever lost on like just the output to Zubaira Tukhugov like that?
Yeah,
so
that's aged terribly.
Yeah, and it's like the power of Tukhugov, you could tell, kind of scared him off in that fight. And I do kind of wonder if that could happen here, right? Like, where he gets cracked once or twice early and then kind of just accepts sitting on his back foot for the rest of the fight. So I think the line is fine at minus 140, but yeah.
My question is, what do you think about the under 2.5? Plus,
what is the under 2.5
plus
right
100?
now? I'm not like in love with that.
Do you think it's like accurate?
I think it maybe could be a little bit like maybe it could be minus 125. I just, the thing is, I don't think Ramos' finishing equity is like that high, and even Kolab, it would be tough for me to go past like 25-30%.
Okay, so you would actually like the over then?
I would probably say about plus 100 is kind of fine, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm deciding how I'm gonna play this one, honestly, but I definitely prefer the Kolab side. I don't know if I'm gonna play that or his KO 2-3.
Man.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he just won a decision and Ramos just did enough to just survive and like didn't really, try to get any of his game going as the fight went on.
Yeah, that's happened to him a number of times in his career. So yeah, it wouldn't be shocking at all.
Yeah, like pull a Ricky Simone where like you just kind of stop trying and just accept that you lost the fight and like kind of just like fake spar for the remaining.
I could definitely see that. But moving on, we got Junior Tafa taking on Walter Walker. Current price, Tafa minus 130. Comeback on Walter plus 110 or Walker plus 110. I kind of made a mess of this. I wanted to bet Tafa here, and I thought people were going to pile in on Walker, and then that didn't happen, and the line moved the other way, and now I just kind of don't really have any interest in betting the fight. Obviously the dynamic here is pretty obvious, right? Grappler versus striker. Tafa's really bad on bottom. If Walker can get him there, he's going to win the fight in all likelihood. I don't know that I think Walker can get the fight there easily. I think he can get it there, obviously, and if he does, he's going to hold him down. But I don't think Walker's wrestling is that great. I worry that he doesn't have the gas to shoot like 7 to 10 times, effectively anyway. And on the feet, I think there's a huge Tafa edge. Like I see some of the combinations that Brzeski strung together against Walker, and I'm like, man, if Tafa like unloads on him like that, this guy's going to sleep. Like I just can't say him standing upright. But like with that said, obviously, like Tafa's 2 takedowns from losing the fight at any given time, so it's like hard to be super confident in Tafa. I guess just when I think about the fight, I feel like at least for the first 10 to 12 minutes here, Tafa's just got a lot more finishing upside than Walker. Like I really don't think Walker is going to finish Tafa on top. And I actually wouldn't be shocked if Tafa. The thing is, I don't think Tafa needs to actually have made improvements to get off his back here. Like I think he could literally just give his back up and stand up, and Walker probably can't do a ton about that. So like, yeah, I lean the Tafa side. I think he's just got a lot more finishing equity here. I think Walker doesn't need to get 3 takedowns, but I think he needs to get 2 takedowns relatively early in rounds here to win this fight. What do you think, Pepe?
This is another one. I'm gonna wait till the weigh-ins before I re-dig into it. But yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the Walker side, honestly. I don't think it's so all the time we give people a pass for their UFC debut. So like I'm willing to overlook some things that I saw in the Brzeski fight for Walker. Because, you know, a lot of people don't have their best performance in their first fucking UFC fight. And the dude is young, man. He's still in his 20s. So I do think his wrestling's decent. Like, he gets some power behind his takedowns. And, yeah, after watching that Usman versus Tafa fight again, there's no way I could bet Tafa here. He just, like, once he's down, he can't work his way up. So I mean, I get Usman's a big guy, so maybe he's worked on it a little bit, but well, I keep hearing people saying Walker is on Ozempic. Like, is that are you able to take that as an athlete in the UFC?
I think that is pure speculation.
I've heard like friends. 5 people say it though.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
I'd be a little surprised if he's on Ozempic.
What are the side effects of that?
It can't be good.
Besides for looking better naked.
If there are no side effects, I'll make sure I get myself some too.
Yeah. I'm about to DM Walker. Let me get your plug, boy.
Anyway, let's move on. We move on to the main card. Banger fight here. I'm starting with you, Pepe. I know you have a strong opinion. We got the Leech, Li Jingliang. He's taking on Carlos Prattes. Prattes minus 370. The comeback on Jingliang is plus 295. What do you think here?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I like the Leech here, bro. Like, okay, I get people's concern about, you know, coming back from the spine injury, but it's really hard to cap that, in my opinion. And the Leech has just fought like this is just I don't know if it's a step down in competition, but this is a big prove it to me spot for Prattes. The 3 people that Prattes has fought in the UFC so far, Mitch Ramirez, Trevin Giles, and Charles Radke, are 3 of the most fragile fighters of the division. Like, they have all been finished multiple times. For fuck's sake, Justin Montalvo, who has pillow fists, killed Radke with a body shot early in his career. Trevin Giles won round 1. Trevin Giles always wins round 1 and then dies. So what I got from those fights is Prattes is crafty. He's obviously good with his knees, his elbows. His striking is sharp. I always thought his striking was sharp. But now you're getting someone in the Leech who has came through multiple times as an underdog in his career. He was like around the same number against Ponzinibbio. And, you know, historically has been durable, puts up pretty good volume, and is just a dependable guy. Like, when you want to fade the Leech is when it's a grappler who can take him down, because his defensive grappling is not the greatest. But I think the line is wide, honestly. And now you're playing Prattes, and, you know, he's coming off a 27-hour flight to Australia. Yeah, I think it's going to be a competitive fight, honestly. I don't really see Prattes just blowing through him, to be honest. So, yeah, I think it's a competitive fight. Obviously, I would make Prattes the favorite just based on, you know, age and size, but I would not make him this big of a favorite. I think it's going to be pretty competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with almost everything you said. I'll say, like, I do think Prattes is obviously like very potent offensively. You know, he's super long, super fast, a lot of power, nasty knees up the middle. I mean,
he's low volume though.
He can be, yeah. But like, if you just looked at Prattes' offense, you could see why people are like really high on him. But I feel like when you go back and look at this guy's, defense throughout his career, from the regionals even on up to his last 2 fights, it's just like, I mean, he's been KO'd twice regionally. He's going to get KO'd again in the not too distant future. You look at his first fight, and it's like Trevin Giles, and he looks like an underdog for most of that fight until he knocks Giles out. His next fight with Radke was landing clean pretty much every time he let his hands go until, he obviously got put out to the body. And to your point, Radke is just super soft to the body and always has been. And like I look at like a lot of the times, a lot of the explosive stuff Prattes does, he kind of just leaves himself out of position and way too close to his opponents, just kind of minimizes the reach he has. And like Leech is like one of the better counter strikers in the higher weight classes in the UFC. Like when you miss with him, you usually get punished. And this isn't like he's not missing against Trevin Giles or against Charles Radke here. Like Leech hits harder than both of those guys. I think Leech will match him on minutes here. I think the big questions are just to your point. Leech is older. He's 36. He hasn't fought in 2 years. He had the spine injury. And like for those reasons, I think making Prattes like minus 150 to minus 180 is probably fine. But I mean, had this fight happened directly after the Daniel Rodriguez fight, I would probably favor Leech outright, to be honest. And like with that in mind, it's like you just go back through like this guy's recent history. Like Daniel Rodriguez, he probably deserved to win that fight. Cleanly beat Muslim Salikov, cleanly beat Santiago Ponzinibbio, cleanly beat Zaleski dos Santos. All of those guys are on par, if not better, at striking than Prattes. So it's like he's beating like good strikers. And now Prattes is basically getting priced like he's a top 10 to 15 talent already off of a pretty uninspiring performance against Trevin Giles. And again, what I thought was a pretty uninspiring performance against Charles Radke. Like, I think Prattes is good. I think he's talented. But I think getting the minus 300 or minus 400 on Prattes is just, it's crazy. Like, I bet Leech at like plus 210 for a unit and a half. I'm probably going to add like half a unit here just because this feels like really stupid to me. But
the decision prop is pretty crazy too.
What is it?
6-1 on DraftKings
for Leech.
Yeah,
that is nuts, dude. I was thinking like overs in over 1.5 is minus 180.
Oh, I thought it was minus 150. Fuck.
Yeah, I must have gotten hit because like I was looking at that too. Because like I do not. I feel like the market is pricing this as if Prattes is just going to blow him away and finish him quickly here, and I'd be. Leech has been hurt before, but he's never been knocked out. Like, I'd be a little surprised if Prattes just comes out here and just blows through him,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Leech has good cardio. Lou had mentioned something about aura. Like, apparently Prattes has aura.
It's because he drills cigs.
Yeah, right? He smokes darts. But, the thing about leeches is they suck the aura right out of you. So the Leech is coming to suck the aura out of Prattes. I mean, come on. It's got to be Leech season.
I agree.
He barely had to travel for this. It's in his hemisphere.
They're flying Prattes across the world.
Good. It's good vibes for China right now. Kavanaugh just knocked the fuck out of the Vietnamese guy. Kavanaugh is half Chinese. He reps the Chinese flag on his Tapology.
It wasn't great for Ding.
Oh, is he Chinese too? Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, so isn't there a few other, and there's 2 other Chinese fighters on this card.
Are there?
Yeah, Kenan Song and
that's right.
Israel Adesanya.
Anyway, moving on. We got Tai Tuivasa taking on Jairzinho Rosenstruik. I played an early Rosenstruik number, but I think the price here is fine. I don't know. I understand why some might want to bet Tai just because he's a big swinging heavyweight, but I just feel like he's pretty badly outskilled here. Like Tai can obviously knock him out in a brawl, but I kind of think the idea that Tai can have like as much leg kick success against a counter striker like Jairzinho as he's had against some guys is a bit flawed. I think he's going to have a hard time because he doesn't really set his leg kicks up. He just throws most of them naked And if he's doing that with Jairzinho, he's going to be eating shots. Plus, he's probably going to eat leg kicks back himself. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this. I think Jairzinho is just the much better striker who's much better defensively, much more accurate, hits a lot harder, and is a lot more durable. Like, Ty's going to have to walk through some heavy counters to get into range to kill Jairzinho. And I mean, it could happen for sure. I just feel like Jairzinho should handle him. I feel like Jairzinho winning this 2 to 2.5 times out of 3 is probably pretty reasonable. What do you think?
For me, as far as like betting purposes, like I have no interest in this fight. I'm looking forward to it from like a fan and entertainment point of view, but there's just too many unknowns with Tuivasa and whether or not like he's taking his career serious, because he's got a lot of business ventures going on, and he's looked like shit as of late. His cardio sucks, but he could obviously chin. What's KO1 for Tuivasa?
That's a good question.
Because I feel like that is a lot of his money line, to be honest.
Let me see if I can find it.
Because we have seen Rosenstruik overwhelmed before.
He's only been knocked down once in his career,
but it was Nagano and Volkov.
Volkov did finish him.
Overwhelmed him.
Plus 195. Oh no, plus 425. That's actually not horrible.
Yeah, like I might just throw like a little bit of money on that just to make watching it more interesting. But
to Local Man's point, I do think he's more durable. I mean, Ty's been dropped 7 times in his career and finished by strikes a bunch. Jairzinho has been finished by Ngannou and Volkov.
Yeah, I mean, but Tuivasa has been finished by heavy hitters.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I am saying it's far from impossible for Tuivasa to knock him out. Like, it's certainly within the realm of possibility. It wouldn't shock me. I just think Jairzinho is better. But
let me ask you a tough question. Who would be more likely to get a submission win in this fight? Probably Jairzinho, right?
I would say he's at ATT, so
yeah.
I would say if anyone
has he landed a takedown in the UFC?
I think he has one. If I'm not mistaken, that
would be scenes if Rosenstruik gets Tuivasa.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me pull it up. No, he has not. He has not landed a takedown.
Neither of them have landed a takedown.
No.
Oh my god.
Who's more? I actually saw DraftKings takedown props. It's plus 1,000 for either of them to land a takedown.
Wait, so either of them can get a takedown?
No. Oh. Each one is plus 1,000. It's like I think Ty's plus 1,200.
I would throw some money on it if it was either of them to get a takedown. I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but plus 1,000, shit.
It's like one of those things where Tuivasa could clinch him up and he just trips him. You know?
Or the other way around. Rosenstruik could just throw him down. I thought I heard something about Rosenstruik, like, being willing to wrestle. I don't know where
that would be hilarious. I gotta find that, because if that's the case, I will bet his submission and I'll bet that takedown prop.
That would be so great, dude. He just he mounts him and then Tui gives his back up and he just gets an easy rear naked choke.
I mean, Ty legit has negative submission
defense. So Local Man said Tuivasa has attempted 3 takedowns and Jairzinho has attempted 1. Tuivasa more takedown value. I wonder what Bet Online's gonna set it up.
That'll be interesting. Moving on though. Interesting fight here. Mateusz Gamrot, he is flying across the world too here to take on Daniel Hooker. Current line, Gamrot, big favorite here, minus 332. Comeback on Hooker, plus 272. Do you think there's value on Hooker, Pepe?
I'm not sure, man. It's hard to tell, honestly. I kind of just get the inclination that he's probably going to lose, to be honest. Man. Gamrot is a very difficult fight for anyone. And I was looking through Hooker's career, and he hasn't fought a wrestler in forever. Like, when is the last time he was, like, proactively wrestled?
Dude, so I saw that too. I noticed he got held down by Yair Rodriguez years ago and Jason Knight.
But, I was going through all of his matchups, and they've matched him up pretty favorably, probably because he's, like, a fun striker who, is going to put up fun fights if he's not getting grounded. But, yeah, I could see Gamrot being able to get his game off here.
I mostly agree with you. I see why. Yeah, like Sean said, he fought Islam and got subbed instantly. And, I see why there would be folks that want to bet the Hooker side of this fight. I mean, obviously, when we've seen Gamrot in space, he does seem a bit on the fragile side. He can get cracked, but like you just said, I mean, Hooker hasn't fought a wrestler in a while. I think takedowns come fairly easily. I don't think Hooker's takedown defense is as good as Jalen Turner's personally. Like Turner's actually got pretty good hips. He knows how to pummel out of the clinch. I mean, Plessis, for better or worse, got Hooker in trouble in that fight. I do think Gamrot can get takedowns. I mean, maybe Hooker can win. He's at home. I mean, he's certainly got more knockout equity, I would think. But I mean, the line move's been pretty severe here. I do think takedowns are pretty easy. I'm not going to bet a money line. And one thing I'm curious your take on, though, I kind of think under at plus 195 is kind of interesting. Like Gamrot could sub him, I think, if he's dominating in the grapple.
You think Gamrot could get finished here?
If he's not dominating in the grappling, probably. You know, like
he fights through getting rocked every time.
He does.
Though. That's the thing. Like, and I think takedowns are going to be relatively easy. He seems to recover really well.
Yeah, that's fair. That is a fair point.
I don't really see Hooker getting a knockout.
Yeah. I mean, and like that's the point though. It's like if you don't see Hooker getting a knockout, plus 300 is certainly right. You know, there's certainly not much value on it if there's
unless Dana White tells Gamrot that he's not allowed to shoot a takedown.
He'll get a title shot if he doesn't shoot once here.
That's the biggest. That's like the theme of the week. There's always some like ridiculous theory going around.
Someone, I don't know if you saw it. Someone tweeted last week that they were friends with Carl Williams and he was told not to wrestle as much by the UFC.
Maybe they were just like, fucking do something if you wrestle. Like, I don't think they care if you wrestle, but fucking throw some ground and pound, you fuck.
Instead, he just chose to do nothing while he was standing instead.
Yeah, exactly. Although I thought he rocked Denise a little bit in round one.
I didn't see the fight. I was at a wedding. Thank God I didn't see that card. It was.
Yo,
gross.
I think me and you both predicted Denise and
decision.
Like, Denise decision on Liam Snow, and neither of us bet him.
Nope, of course not. That was good times. Good times. Moving on, we got the co-main event of the evening. Cara France taking on Steve Erceg. Current price, Erceg minus 155. Comeback on Cara France, plus 135. I don't know. I was going to bet Kai, and then the line moved on me, and now it's at plus 135, and I'm not really that interested in it. I feel like up at like plus 185, 190, where it was early in the week, there was probably like a decent edge on the Kai side of things, but where it is now, I just don't trust Kai enough to get his offense off without like really hurting Erceg, which Erceg has seemed pretty durable. So I feel like short of a knockout, Kai's best case is probably a pretty competitive fight here, which I think could happen. But I also feel like Erceg getting a takedown is likely, I shouldn't say likely, but very possibly around where he gets a back take, because Kai does give his back up pretty much every time to get back to his feet. So like I think there's a lot of grappling equity on the Erceg side. Honestly, I kind of think Erceg's got a bit more finishing equity in this fight too. So I mean, with that in mind, it's just like, yeah, I mean, Kai can compete with him striking, obviously, but I don't really feel confident that Kai's going to win the striking like cleanly. Like Erceg fought competitively on the feet with Dvorak, fought competitively on the feet with Pantoja. You know, obviously beat the brakes off Schnell. I don't know. I think minus 150-ish is fine on the Erceg side, just given I think he has more finishing equity and I think he's got the grappling equity. What do you think, Pepe?
I still have to do a little more tape on this one, honestly, but my initial thoughts were Erceg should be able to handle him. His boxing is just cleaner, and like you said, he has way more finishing upside. I like Erceg's game, honestly. I never really been a big fan of Kai's game. Like, he kind of just, you know, lunges forward and does big overhands, but I don't know. I think there's some decent submission props. I could see Erceg hurting France and then getting a submission. Unibet had some nice numbers. Erceg by submission plus 750.
That's a big number. That's a very, very big number.
Yeah, so that's something that has my attention for sure. But yeah, I'm way more of a fan of Erceg's game. I don't really like Kai.
Yeah,
He's so little too.
he's tiny and he's very rote. Like you said, it's kind of just jab to set up right overhand, and that's literally his entire game.
His wins aren't aging well either. Honestly, he can be low volume. Like he fucking what was the didn't I didn't re-look at this fight, but yeah, the Tyson Nam fight was like, that was super close. Like he never really pulls away with any of his wins, honestly.
I mean, the funny thing is the Moreno fight, the second one, was probably what at the time looked like his best performance, even though he got finished. But like Moreno has just looked like absolute ass in the couple of years since that fight happened, and I mean that just hasn't aged great either. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so his best performances were obviously Cody Garbrandt and Askar Askarov. But yeah, he hasn't fought since I guess it's a little over a year. It's not that bad. But yeah, I don't think Albazi's that good, so I don't really. I thought Kai won, but it was more about Albazi gassing and being pretty mid himself. So yeah, I don't rate Kai that high. Let me see if the line came down. I hope people keep playing Kai because I would be happy if Erceg hits -140, which I doubt.
I think he might, man. It's been like one-way traffic on Kai.
Yeah, I know. And then people want to stand in front of it, and then more money seems to come in. Yeah, dude. I think, and people have that narrative where it's like, oh, someone coming off a title fight, they lose their next fight. I don't really buy into that, honestly. It's all.
I mean, there's probably a few notable.
It's all matchup specific, though,
right? And you would need like at least like 100 instances of it to really say we have
if someone can make a document of, I mean, someone probably will, of like the past 100 lost the title fight and then lost their next matchup, I would be happy to review it, but it's just so, I don't know, it just seems like kind of a narrative, honestly. Yeah, I don't know how based in stats it really is. And the thing is, dude, Erceg, he's in his mid-20s. He's only had 16 pro fights. It's not like he had to fucking scrape up the UFC for 10 to 12 years before he got his title shot.
No, and the Pantoja fight wasn't like a crazy war either. Like there was a lot of grappling in that fight,
Yeah, he blew that fight though, for sure. He easily could be the champion right now.
Yeah. So, but with that said, we're going to get to talk about someone coming off a loss in a title fight in our next fight, the main event. Dricus du Plessis taking on Israel Adesanya. The current champion Dricus at -110 taking on the former champion Israel. Comeback on him is also -110. What do you think, Pepe? Does Israel have a third reign in him, or is Dricus going to stifle it?
This is a really tough fight to call, honestly.
Yeah.
I can see reasons for why each of them could win this fight. And for Dricus, I think in order for Dricus to win, he probably needs to get his grappling going and get his wrestling going. And I mean, I think he should be able to do it. I think he should be able, I think he will be able to get takedowns at certain points of the fight. How much success he has with them or for how long remains to be seen. I think you can look back at the Blachowicz performance by Izzy, and, it was pretty pathetic with how easily he was grounded for a lot of that fight. But thinking back to Izzy's past two losses other than Alex Pereira, and even Alex Pereira, like Pereira, Strickland, and Blachowicz, they're all three of them are very hard to leg kick. And Izzy's got really good leg kicks. Like he was able to disable Paulo Costa when they fought. And I don't think Dricus is going to be able to check the leg kicks as well as they were able to. So I think he could really slow the movement down of Dricus. kind of drag him into a striking fight, use his footwork to avoid takedowns. I want to bet Izzy, honestly. Like, it kind of seems like Dricus is mush this week. But there are some things working in his favor. Obviously, he's 5 years younger. He's a lot more physical. He seems to be stronger. But, I mean, with USADA gone, post-USADA Izzy could be a different animal. I know he looked really flat in that Strickland fight, but Strickland's boxing and boxing defense is so much better than DDP's. So I think Izzy's going to have a way easier time finding Dricus, picking him off. So, yeah, I favor Izzy to win. I don't know if I'm going to bet it. I probably will, actually. I should parlay Izzy, Kanan Song, and the Leech for the China
like
parlay to feed a nation.
That I am with you to feed a nation here. Yeah, I like my initial thought before I looked at it was I think Dricus is going to win this fight. I think he's got more finishing upside. I think he's got more grappling upside. He's younger, etc. And then I looked at it and I don't know, man. First of all, to your point, it seems like everybody is betting Dricus and thinks this is like, oh, he's special, it's different. But like, you're special until you're not, right? Until somebody beats you. And the reality of the situation is, I'm not saying Strickland definitely beat Dricus, but there's a pretty damn good case for Strickland having won that fight. And I know Strickland beat Israel, but the truth is, I mean, you nailed the thing with the leg kick. Strickland's super hard to leg kick. Dricus really isn't. But Dricus doesn't fight like Strickland. Like, Strickland wouldn't let him out of a phone booth all fight. He literally just stayed in his face and basically just kept the pressure on and jabbed him. And I don't think Dricus is going to do that. You mentioned the grappling in the Blachowicz fight. Obviously, it was bad. Obviously, it was also up a weight class. But, like, he got taken down 4 times in his next fight by Marvin Vettori, who's a black belt, and who, frankly, I think is as good on top, if not better than Dricus, who couldn't really control him. He got taken down 4 times in the fight after that by Robert Whitaker, who really couldn't control him. Like, Whitaker got his back, but I tape Dricus's grappling pretty deep. I don't think this is a guy who's going to be having an easy time jumping to the back and getting a body triangle. So, like, I'd be a little surprised if Dricus had huge moments of control on, like, the two biggest things that stood out to me on, like, the plus side and the minus side is I feel like Izzy's speed is huge here. I think Dricus is going to have a hard time dealing with it at distance, especially giving up 4 inches of height and like 3 inches of reach here too, or 4 inches of reach here too. It's just going to be very, very difficult for him to get inside of Adesanya here. The other side of that is I didn't really love Adesanya's last fight with Whitaker. I thought it was a pretty... that fight was 4 fights ago, so I don't want to put like too much stock in it. But like, I felt like Whitaker's blitzes were having a lot more success there than I think I expected them to, and that kind of concerns me because that's kind of how DDP fights. He's going to just blitz forward, and I could kind of see him keeping Izzy a bit off balance here for large stretches of this fight. But like, with all of that being said, it's just like, Israel lost to Strickland. Okay, like, he got knocked down in the first round. He never really seemed to get out of first gear in that fight. Maybe he's done. But like, the 2 fights prior, he knocked out Alex Pereira, and then, the fight prior to that was literally 2 minutes from beating Alex Pereira by decision. I mean, Pereira has looked superhuman in the time since.
Yeah,
certainly, right? He's like certainly a better striker than Dricus is. I don't think anybody would even debate that. So. I guess when I'm thinking about it, it's like you really have to think Dricus can get on top of him here and have big success there, I think, for the line to make sense. And I don't know, Pepe. Like, do you think he can? I think he can get on top. I'm pretty skeptical how much success he's going to have, though.
Yeah, I think he could have. I think he definitely could have success with his grappling. I think that's his win condition.
But, I mean, do you think he can get, like, 10 to 15 minutes of control? Like, that would shock me, honestly.
I don't know, because there's still, like, a big question in this dynamic is, like, what his cardio looks like.
Yeah.
So,
and how many takedowns is he going to shoot?
Yeah, because Yeah, he looked gassed as shit against Darren Till.
Yeah, and like Izzy, I know he doesn't have great jiu-jitsu, but he is like really, really hard to take down. You really have to set up your entry as well. I mean, he defends takedowns at almost 80% against a pretty large sample size,
Yeah.
some pretty good grapplers, you know. So
Yeah, but Dricus was able to get down Strickland, who has good takedown defense.
He was. I mean, I think he's going to take him down 3 or 4 times in this fight.
Yeah.
I think what happens there is the big question.
I think he could gas out if Izzy makes him work and is like punishing him with body shots and, you know, hit him with leg kicks.
Could you see like in your head something similar to the Costa fight? Like not as dominant because that was just pathetic, but
Yeah,
like
right.
but I keep in my head seeing like Whitaker's a lot faster with his blitzes than Dricus is. And it's like if Dricus can't cut him off, I mean that could get ugly. And like so I keep coming back to like the Darren Till fight. And Till was the last guy he fought that could really fight on the back foot, and Till absolutely shredded him standing, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you like any props on it?
I was thinking Izzy KO just because it's plus 300, I think. But I don't know. If I play the KO, I wouldn't play the money line too. And I think the money line is probably the better play, honestly. I'm kind of just sitting back to see because Plessis might become the favorite by fight day. I don't really know where the line is going. So I'm just going to monitor that, take in some more information, see how the press conference goes, look at the body language, shit like that. But I'm pretty sure I'll probably have a play on Izzy by fight night.
Yeah, I lean that way as well. And I also, it's like one of those things where I've faded Dricus a bunch of times. And like, I don't think you want to be the guy that's fading somebody and then you decide to buy high on him against the best striker in the division's history and pick him, you know?
I mean, like, in all honesty, you should probably max bet Izzy.
I agree.
Like, isn't this the martingale moment?
Yeah, I mean, I had like 3 units on Strickland minus 125. You know, like it's
that was rough because on rewatch I thought Strickland won.
I did too, and I also think the cut on his eye kind of fucked him up. It seemed to like really kind of just fuck with his head a bit in round 4 of the fight.
Yeah, I've seen a few things about like the UFC saying if Dricus wins, they'll do a UFC in Africa. What the fuck is that? Like, I don't.
That spooks me, man. I'll be honest.
Well, why would they want a UFC in Africa? And why wouldn't they just bring Izzy down for the UFC in Africa?
Or they do a rematch in Africa. But like, how many people in Africa even have fucking cable? Like, and I don't mean that in like a disrespectful way. Like, I'm saying it's like the poorest continent on earth. You know,
I
mean, is there like this?
They would
giant
probably do South America.
Yeah.
What is the biggest stadium in South America or in South Africa?
It's probably one of the places in like Johannesburg, Cape Town. Yeah. I mean, that would be so they're gonna try to get their African fan base by bringing them to the whitest part of Africa. That would be the most UFC thing ever to do.
Yeah, but the other thing, what was the other thing? They also said Strickland was going to face the winner.
Interesting. Really? I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. He's kind of logical next guy, unless I'm actually, honestly, I'm a little surprised. I thought Izzy might go up and fight Alex again at 205 after, you know.
That's another thing because they don't know if, I think they're holding out on Pereira as far as what they want to do. And I could see if Izzy won, then him fighting at 205 for double champ against Pereira. And then if Izzy loses, they'll do Pereira up to heavyweight. So I feel like they want to use I feel like they want to use Pereira as a super fight because, to be honest, no one wants to see Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira.
Yeah, no one wants to see it, but it's like we're gonna make do you think Tom Aspinall is gonna trade with Alex Pereira? Like, I really don't think so.
Why, you think he would just wrestle him?
I mean, I think he's not a stupid fighter, you know.
Does he have the cardio to do that?
I mean, he's just so much bigger. I feel like he would just cook him like instantly, you know. Like, did you hear the Curtis Blades thing about it? Like, with
But
him, he
the
was talking
thing
about
is,
Pereira?
it's not guaranteed to be Tom Aspinall. It could be John Jones.
Yeah. I mean, John Jones is guaranteed to wrestle
Because but Jones isn't like that physical. So
that's true. I guess that's true.
If John Jones beats Stipe,
which you will,
or what if Stipe pulls out and they have fucking
Pereira step in at the Garden
instead of Aspinall? Well, like if you're John Jones and you beat Stipe and he's like one more money fight, are you going to fight Pereira or are you going to fight Tom Aspinall?
Oh, of course. I don't think Jones is fighting Tom Aspinall, to be honest.
Yeah, the reward is not big enough because it's all about legacy at this point. So
I'd like to see it. I would like to see that fight, but I don't think he will.
As far as like the octagon, his career has run as perfect as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, it's like somehow the guy can test positive for steroids like 3 times, and somehow everybody has forgotten about it on Earth.
Well, didn't they like forgive him for it or say there was something like it was?
Yeah, it's unclear exactly why the sample was fine, but yeah,
it's so funny. There will never be another John Jones, and
no.
But he is getting annoying about not wanting to fight fucking.
But I feel like we won't get another John Jones just because John Jones, like, he's the brother of 2 NFL linebackers. Like, the dude's a freak athlete who came to the UFC at a time when there were no really good athletes in the UFC. Just unfair. He's like unfairly better.
Another thing is he played the villain role better than anyone will ever do. And like, people are so sensitive nowadays that if any fighter even approached like a villain personality type thing, they would get like, people would attempt to cancel him and
although
defamate their name. But the UFC is in need of personalities so bad, and in combat sports, just the heel role is so important. So we need more heels.
We need clever heels though. Like Colby tried, but he's just not that funny. You know, like Chael Sonnen was funny.
Yeah, Chael is obvious. Chael, Connor, and John were the 3 best. But yeah, Colby is terrible. He's so cringe, man. It can't come off as like forced. Like you have to be naturally good at it.
Yeah, I agree.
Eileen Perez is better than Juliana Pena.
I am enjoying the Eileen Perez shit talk. I wish she was better than she is, just for that. But
yeah, she could. I hope she gets better.
Yeah, but she's like talking shit to Tracy Cortez, and it's like we all know how that would go. Like it wouldn't even really be that fun.
That thing about when Mackenzie Dern beat Lupi, she was like, "Congratulations, Mackenzie! Even though your technique was shit, you used your toughness to grit out the win." Just so funny. Eileen,
I would be there for that too.
Her technique is shit.
I would love if they just threw Eileen Perez into like a random main event with like Mackenzie Dern or Tracy Cortez. It would just be hilarious.
I mean, she's way bigger than them.
She is, yeah, which would make it more fun. I think Cortez would wreck her.
Yo, that would be awesome. Mackenzie Dern or Tracy Cortez at Cortez has fought at 135.
Oh, true. It's 135. I thought she was 125 for some reason.
No, Perez used to fight at 145, and now she's 135.
Bro, Dern would be looking like thick at 135.
Thick as fucking.
I'd like to see it for science.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, exactly. She's kind of. Oh yeah, because she's down at straw weight. So
yeah.
That would be quite the jump.
She's probably coming into the cage at like 125, 130, and in that kind of fight, she'd be like 155.
She's pretty big for 115. She
fought
at 125 for a while.
Dude, she used to, I don't know if you remember, like back in the day, she fought like Amanda Bobby Cooper and missed weight by like 7 pounds and looked like huge.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, she used to be fat.
Yeah.
Her body looks like It's really tight right now. Like, she's in the best shape of her career by far right now.
Yeah, I mean, if she could ever just kind of round out her striking, I mean, who knows where she could
It's
go.
gotten way better. Every fight, it looks better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I bet her against Loopy, and she kind of impressed me in that fight. Like, I expected it would be like more competitive than like the kind of general market thesis was, but I didn't think she was just gonna outstrike her over like 15 minutes. You know?
Yeah, her wrestling has gotten better too, because I remember even in the Lemos fight, she had a nice double leg. Like, she used to never be able to do shit like that.
I mean, she's not old, is she? What is she, like 29, 30?
I don't know. I would say 30 or 31.
Because she could make a bit of a run. I think.
Yeah.
She would only need like one or two things to go right, really. Yeah, she's 31. Not too old.
Yeah, I mean, dude, she came really fucking close, and you could even make an argument that you could score that fight against Lemos for Dern, honestly.
Yeah,
And
for sure. I wish.
Lemos is one. Okay, so this is another. Didn't Lemos fight Dern right after the title?
Yep.
Okay, so she won.
And she won.
Why wasn't everyone dick riding Dern in that fight?
We were. we were.
I was dick riding Dern very hard in that fight, but we got like plus 200.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy price, but that was just fucking.
Yeah, so, okay. Someone needs to collect the numbers on post-title fight record.
If anybody in here does that, I will give you $50 if you can get me all of those numbers, UFC history.
Well, history is a little much, I think.
Okay, last 10 years.
10 years would be reasonable.
Yeah. 10 years, if you give me the loser of title fights result in their next fight.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see. But anyway, guys, that'll wrap it up tonight. Pepe, you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yep. You can find me on Twitter at Pepe_Sylvia716. Still doing my thing for fight numbers. Got a bunch of plays for some upcoming cards already in. Sign up using John's promo code and join the community, get in our Discord, and that's it.
Yeah, boys, use the promo code CLUB, CLUB, if you need to know how to spell club. Follow Pepe. He's the fucking man. Super cool dude. Super sharp dude. Guys, if you like the show, drop a like, subscribe. We'll be back 7 p.m. Eastern next week. Good luck on your bets this weekend. God bless. Thank you, Pepe.
Yes, sir.